Let me just be very honest about this. The comic book industry in Singapore right now is pretty much non-existent, all right? Because I'm very strict when it comes to the definition of an industry. Do we have a scene? Maybe. We have a couple of people doing comic books. There seems to be circles of folks who are doing zines and they show up at meets once in a while. So there is sort of a scene. But as far as the industry is concerned, we don't have one yet, because for an industry to exist, there needs to be an ecosystem where people can come together, get paid for the work, have a legit contract, have publishers who are willing to sign them readily, maybe even agents or even the editors involved, and people who will basically, there will be jobs in this industry that will be able to push your work out fairly simply. But right now, as far as Singapore is concerned, we're still at baby steps. A lot of things has to be very grassroots. Everything has to be initiated by the person themselves. Like for me, over the last 10 years, the beginning part of my journey was really tough because at the time, no publishers wanted to touch comic books at all because they only believe in putting out like books, like actual prose books, and even maybe poetry, but not for comic books. The situation has changed over the last 10 years. And I think I'm pretty proud to say that I think I've contributed to people changing their minds because I put out all these books and then now publishers actually are more willing to want to put books out. So people who are starting out today, you guys are in a much better position now than I started with 10 years ago. You actually have the opportunity now as long as you have the book. Back then, even though I had all these books, no one wanted to put it out. So I had to resort to self-publishing. Going back to how there really isn't an industry here, the money that comes out of any of these publishing deals that people are signing with the various publishers that exist today in Singapore is really very little. It's pretty much nothing for the most part, all right? I mean, unless you really become like a bestseller, if you're selling like hotcakes, like a Catherine Lim book or something like that, then you'll actually be seeing money coming in. But for the most part, let's be honest, a lot of people are going to put out that one book, they're going to have that one print run, and that's it, you're done, right? So maybe you get like $2,000 at most tops for that one book in terms of royalties. $2,000 is for the entirety of the time you're going to put into the book. So let's say if you're doing it on your own, like for me, you spend like 2 years to do that book. That's $2,000 for 2 years, man. That is like pretty much chump change, It's like it's petty cash, man. It's nothing. This is a full-time job, okay, and that's the reason why I stake my life in doing this. And eventually, around the 5th or the 6th year, I actually saw money coming in. So you cannot say that you're not going to make money. You will eventually if you keep at it and you consistently put out good work. But the first 5 years is tough. Let me just tell you. So get ready if this is what you want to do. But I will say, if you persevere, you can reach a certain point where it starts to turn around. But you must be prepared. At the very basics, to get your works published is actually pretty simple. You just have to make a book. That's kind of the biggest hurdle for a lot of artists. And you have an idea of the kind of book you want to make. But the problem is getting to that book. That very first book is always the biggest hurdle for a lot of people. You need to know why you're putting this book out. I think a lot of people don't really know that reason. And please, if the only reason why you're making comic books is because you think it's cool, that's not a good reason for you to do comic books because you're not gonna last in this business. You gotta know why you want to do this. Like the reason why I want to make the tourist books is because I want to show the most accurate depiction of Singapore life and the modern Singaporean living in this current time, dealing with the issues that we deal with today, and capture it in the form of a comic book. That's the drive that I do that makes me want to make more tourist books. And the drive I want to make my other books is because I have another book called Bricks on the Wall, which is about the music industry. I want to talk about music industry. So you need to know why you want to make a book. If your only reason is because I love drawing, I don't think that's a compelling enough reason because you're not going to be able to convey this essence of a story to the audience why you want to do that. Then it becomes just showing off, right? And if you want to show off, DeviantArt is good enough for you to show off. You don't need to publish a book to show off, stuff like that. So know why you want to do this, but most importantly, you gotta persevere, man. You have to have something to say. You have to have a purpose as to why you're doing this, right? Mostly, you guys got to make sure that you have works that are out there. So how do you get those works done? Well, it's really simple. You got to put in the time. And making books, let me just tell you, it's tedious. It takes a really long time, right? For me, on average, I can probably complete a tourist book in about 6 to 9 months. But that's because I've been doing this for so long. I have my rhythm down. My scheduling is already pretty tight. I know exactly what I need to do. I don't waste time. But for that first book that you want to put up, budget yourself about 2 years to get it out, okay? Because it's not just making the book. You got to go back and fix all the problems when you're done. That takes a lot of time, you know. And let me tell you, for most people who have not embarked on this 2-year journey before, a lot of you will want to give up in 3 months. And just please, I implore you, don't give up, because if you started this, you got to finish it. You have to at least finish this first book so you know what the different criteria, surrounding making a book are. You need to know what it takes to do it. So, because once you finish that first book, the second book is a lot easier. But you need to at least do this first journey. It's really, really important. For something like comic book, which is very rooted in storytelling, essentially it's a book. You're reading a book, right? It's a story. It's all about a story. I mean, yeah, there are pictures. Pictures can look nice. And one of the things that I always hear comic books saying, beginner comic book artists, they always say that, oh, you know what? I can make it up with my beautiful art. And that is true to some extent. But let me just tell you, man, over the last 10 years, this is something which I've noticed, and I think it's pretty much 100% thing. You can get away with terrible art, but with a great story. But if you have a shit story with really good art, ain't gonna work. People are not gonna be interested in it for the long term. You might get away with one book, but people are not gonna come back for the second book. So I don't want to sort of discourage budding artists out there, because like I said again, most people who want to do comic artists, they generally already can draw, so they generally start off with the illustrator and settle, but they don't come in with the writing aspect pinned down, and they think they can always just wing it, with the good art. But no, you cannot. You actually have to boost up your writing skills, and generally, here's a test that you should try out, right? Try writing prose, pure prose, 1 page. Tell me a story, or tell your friends a story. Write it down in that 1 page. If you have immense difficulty just putting out that 1 page in text, you need to really boost up your writing skills before you even begin doing comic books. This is something which, if you start out trying to improve in the beginning, you will go a long way. If you think you can always just get by with just a good art, it's gonna hurt you along the way, And this is something that I really, really feel strongly about, and I really hope that some of you out there, if you watch this and you believe me, you start to work on it, you're gonna thank me in 5 years' time. Trust me on this.